All right, so we are going to finish our lesson 10.2 from yesterday. Yesterday we were using sine, cosine, and tangent to find a side. We wrote an equation. So today we're going to learn how to find angle measurements. So yesterday, at the end of yesterday's lesson, I assigned these problems here to you guys. Number 1, 4 through 6, and 8 through 10. So hopefully those are close to being done, if not already done. That way, at the end of the period today, you only have 3 more problems to do, and then you can turn in the assignment at the end of the class. So for today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on finding angle sides, angle measurements. And so we have a concept here. It says, in general, if you know the lengths of 2 sides of a right triangle, so you need to know the 2 sides of a right triangle, you can use the corresponding inverse trig ratio to find the acute angle. Like yesterday we saw, like the angle right here was given to us. It was like 72 degrees or something. And then we had like a side was 12, and we had an X somewhere. Today we're going to be doing it kind of different. We're going to have 2 sides, like this is 32. We're actually going to have the X in the angle portion instead, and we're going to be given the 2 sides, okay? And so for the regular trig ratios, sine, cosine, and tangent, we use these. These are used to find sides, but the inverse trig ratios, like sine inverse, cosine inverse, tangent inverse, all of those are used to find angles. Okay, so regular trig ratios, sine, cosine, and tangent, we use those to find a side. The inverse, like sine inverse, cosine inverse, tangent inverse, those are used to find an angle. If we're missing an angle, we use the inverse. If we're finding a side, we use regular trig ratios. Okay? And just notation for like reading, this is called the sine inverse. We don't say sine to the -1. We just read it as sine inverse. And then notice that the ratios are still the same. Like sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Sine inverse is still opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is still adjacent over hypotenuse. The inverse is still adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So tangent inverse is still opposite over adjacent. The ratios are the same. It's just using the inverse instead of the regular trig function. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at our first example. The directions are the same like yesterday. We're going to first write an equation to find x, and then we're going to find the value of x. We're going to round to the nearest tenth if necessary. And then yesterday we were finding sides, so we had to label units. But today we're looking at angles, so we're going to label them as degrees. So just like we did yesterday, the first thing you want to do is label the O, the A, and the H. So looking at the angle right here, across the angle, 31 is going to be the opposite side. Across the 90, 53 is going to be which side? O, A, or H? H, which means this side, CB, is going to be A. And then we had SOHCAHTOA to figure out which trig ratio to use. So looking at the sides that are given, which letter should I cross out? A. We don't have anything labeled for A, so cross it out. I have the A's crossed out here, so that means I have sine left over. Sine of the angle here. So S, to write my equation, S is the sine of the angle. Yesterday we had a degree measure right here. We don't have an angle, we have x, so we say sine of x degrees is equal to the opposite side goes in the numerator, so opposite is 31 over the hypotenuse side is in the denominator, so hypotenuse is 53. So that's my equation to solve for x. But notice I have x right here attached to the sign. Like x is inside the sign. Like normally this is put with parentheses, like in the calculator it's put in parentheses. So to get rid of the sign, I can't just say, I'm going to divide by sign. That's not how it works. Just like how taking the square root, the inverse is a square, like squaring both sides. Each operation has an inverse. So to get rid of the sign, we have to do sine inverse, okay? So we take the sine inverse of each side. Sine inverse of sine x degrees is going to equal whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So sine inverse of 31 over 53. Okay. And what that does is the sine inverse and the sine cancel. And we're going to be left with the measure of angle x is going to equal sine inverse of 31 over 53. Okay. And then from here, you plug it into the calculator. So I'll write it out so you know what to do. You might want to jot this down also, so later when you're referencing it, like when you're reviewing or doing homework or something, you know how to plug it in the calculator, okay? So to get to sine inverse, notice on the calculator, sine inverse is like right on top of the sine. So to get to sine inverse, you have to click on second, and then you click on sine, and then it's going to open a parenthesis automatically. Then you're going to type in like the fraction 31 divided by 53, and then you're going to close the parenthesis and press equals. Okay, that's how you plug it in the calculator. You're going to go second sine. It'll automatically open a parenthesis, so then you're going to go 31 divided by 53, close the parenthesis, and then press equals. And that's going to give you your answer for measure of angle x is approximately, the directions say to round to the nearest tenth. So make sure you guys all type that in the calculator. Okay. And lefties, tell your partner, what did you get for your answer? To the nearest tenth. So after the decimal, one number. Okay. Fatima, what did you get for your answer? 35.8. 35.8. Did you guys all get 35.8? Anybody get something different? You guys all got that? Yes? Okay. And then over here it says for angles, use a label of degrees. So I have to just put the little circle at the top for the degree symbol, 35.8 degrees, because it's an angle. And that's my final answer there. Okay. All right, so it's not that much different other than to solve for x, you take the sine inverse of each side. Then the sine inverse cancels the sine. And then here is just basically calculator work to get the answer. All right, let's go ahead and do another one together. Do you guys have to fill in anything? I can't tell. We have the side JK is 25, KL is 36, and then angle J is our X right here. So I'm going to put my arc at angle J. Across the angle is 36. So 36 is at O, A, or H? O. And then across the 90 is H, which means 25 is our adjacent side. Okay? All right. And then we have to figure out which trig function we have. So, cot, or TOA. Sine, cosine, or tangent. Go ahead and cross out the letter that we're not using. And then figure out what trig function to use. Sine, cosine, or tangent. What letter do we cross out? And then that'll tell you which trig function to use. Okay. If you're sitting on the left side, you're a lefty today. So lefties, share with your partner, is it sine, cosine, or tangent? All right, so what letter did you cross out, Carlos? Which letter do we cross out, O, A, or H? A as an apple? H. Okay, so crossing out H leaves us with which trig function? Well, it leaves us with tangent, right? TOA? So what does our T stand for? T stands for tangent of the angle. What's my angle? I don't have a degree, so I'm just going to put tangent of x degrees is equal to the opposite side, which is 36, over the adjacent side in the denominator. So 25 goes in the denominator. That's my equation. Okay, now righties, if you're sitting on the right side, tell your partner, what did we do to get rid of like the tangent? What do we do? Righties? Okay, so what do we do to each side, Bilal? We don't divide. Remember looking at this one? To get rid of the sine, we have to take the sine inverse of each side, right? So how do we get rid of the tangent? We take the inverse of each side. So we do tangent inverse of tangent x is equal to tangent inverse of 36 over 25. That way our tangents cancel. And we end up with the measure of angle x is equal to tangent inverse of 36 over 25. So we do just like we did the sine, except tangent inverse. So this time we have to do second tangent on your calculator. And then you go 36 divided by 25, close parenthesis, and press equals. So second tangent and then you put 36 divided by 25, close the parenthesis, press equals. Lefties, go ahead and tell your partner, what did you get for your answer to the nearest tenth? Okay. Now, everybody on a count of three, you're going to tell me now, what did you get for your answer? In 3, 2, 1. 55.2. What do I label my answer with? The degree symbol. Awesome. All right. Next one, you guys can do more of it. I'll kind of set it up and then you guys can do more of this one. Okay? All right, this one we have angle CA or AC is 7. Side AB is 19. And then angle A right here is where the X is at. So CA is 7, AB is 19, and the angle A is X right here. Alright, so what I'd like you guys to do is label the O, the A, and the H. Cross out the side that we're not using. And then figure out if this is sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay, and righties, tell your partner which letter did you cross out and then what trig function do we have. Okay, I didn't really hear you guys talking, so Alondra, what side do we cross out? O, A, or H? O. Okay, which means what trig function is this? Cosine? Because the O's cancel, so we have cosine. Alright, now what I'd like you guys to do is write your equation for me. Write the equation. Cosine of blank is equal to blank over blank. Cosine of blank equals blank over blank. Write your equation for me. And go ahead and, I don't know who just shared last time. So lefties, tell your partner what you write for your equation. All right, Daniela, what did you write for your equation? Uh-huh. 7 over 19. Good. You guys all got that? All right, so then from here to solve, how do we get rid of the cosine? We do the what on each side? The inverse. So we do cosine inverse of cosine x is equal to the cosine inverse of 7 over 19. And then that way our cosines cancel here. We're left with the measure of angle x is equal to the cosine inverse of 7 over 19. You're going to plug that into the calculator and then find your answer to the nearest tenth. So on the calculator, we're going to go second cosine this time. And then 7 divided by 19, close the parenthesis, press equals. All right, go ahead and check with your partner what you get for your answer. Okay, On a count of three, tell me your answer, everybody. In 3, 2, 1. That was bad, you guys. I need everybody to participate. So everybody on a count of three, tell me your answer. In 3, 2, 1. 63.4. 63 or 68? 68.4. And what am I missing in my answer? What are we missing on our answer? Degree symbol. Don't forget the degree symbol here. Okay? All right, good. All right, so for the rest of the period, you guys are going to do the assignment in class. You should be able to finish. First period, mostly everybody finished, but you are working on the 10-2, and now you can do all problems. Yesterday you did like number 1, 4 through 6, 8, and 10. Now you can do 2, 3, and 7. So now you can do the whole assignment. Okay? All right.